Surgeon-guided, technology-driven, robotic arm-assisted surgical technology for hip and knee replacements. Available at Kansas Spine and Specialty Hospital, proud sponsor of KPTS, Public Television for Kansas.
The following program is brought to you by TZ Productions, offering 40 years of media experience.
Coming up on Hatteberg's People.
They tell us who we are and where we came from, and I think it's important to save that information for future generations.
It's the next best thing to a time machine. We take a look back into the past of a small Kansas community thanks to an amazingly vivid collection of photographs. Also,
one has to keep busy, Larry. So that's why we practically work ourselves to death, I guess.
Well, but I think we've overdone it.
It was David and Betty Hughes' way of remembering their son while trying to forget the tragedy that took his life. See how their son's legacy lives on in a small western Kansas town. And
I want to be the first deafblind model.
meet this amazing young woman who refused to let her disabilities destroy her dreams. Hers is an amazing story of determination and hope in the face of hardship. Plus,
I love the desert, but I couldn't afford to live there. So I brought the desert home.
that's right, he moved the desert to Wichita. We're going to take a tour of this beautiful home, which is unlike any other. Hello, I'm Susan Peters.
and I'm Larry Hatteberg. We're so glad you're with us tonight, and those are just a few of the stories that are queued up and ready to roll. Hatteberg's People starts right now. These stories are like old friends. Their lives radiate from the screen like prophets of the past. They were teachers, but not in a classroom. Instead, they taught about life to those around them who cared to listen, and I was their student.
It is a remarkable record of Kansas life as it was 100 years ago.
Yeah, it's really incredible. Thanks for joining us, everybody. We are talking about photos so brilliant and clear that these faces from the past seem to come to life before your eyes. They are captured on the largest collection of glass plate negatives known to exist that are connected to a specific location. That location is Stafford County, Kansas.
They are everyday pictures taken by a photographer who never used film. William Gray worked out of this photography studio in St. John from 1905 to 1947. He took pictures of everything in the community, but instead of film, his images, the negatives, were captured on glass plates.
As far as the value of the history and culture within the negatives, to me, it's priceless.
Now, 29,000 glass plates of the early 20th century Kansas reside in a safe at the Stafford County Museum. Michael Hathaway is the museum director.
It's quite rare to find one collection that is indigenous to one geographic location.
The plates are fragile and must be cataloged and cleaned for permanent storage. And for the past few years, Marion Hearn has spent countless hours cleaning each glass negative.
I've done about 75 of them in one day, but most of the time it's anywhere from 45 to 60 that I can do at one time.
Well, I know it doesn't look like much, but that's about to change.
In St. John, artist Carol Long is a fan of the building that was both home and studio to photographer William Gray.
Well, I know what it looks like now, but you can just imagine an artist living and working in this space, giving classes to our community, and just enhancing our quality of life here.
The Northlight window is perfect for artists, but the building now needs $270,000 to rebuild it. The old darkroom where William Gray worked is falling apart with holes in the ceiling. But Carol envisions this old building as a future artist colony and gallery in St. John, all open to the community.
William Gray was an artist. He was a fabulous artist. So in this building, those things were recorded. And we would love to have more artists come in this space made for an artist.
While artist Carol Long in St. John hopes for an artistic renaissance for an old building, museum director Michael Hathaway in Stafford sees the pictures as a visual voice from the past.
They tell us who we are and where we came from, and I think it's important to save that information for future generations. It shows us where we came from and maybe will help us know where we're going.
Just recently, the last of those glass plate negatives were cleaned and cataloged, and that makes 30,843 of them. You can now view many of those photos online, and you could spot one of your ancestors there. Now, we've posted the link on the Hatteberg's People page at kpts.org.
Okay, I'm there tonight. I love Kansas history.
It's remarkable.
Can you imagine? Because these are real-life photographs of what really happened back then.
Exactly.
How nice of him to keep all these negatives.
Well, they actually just discovered these a few years ago, and they were being stored somewhere. And, you know, glass plate, they're very fragile.
Yeah.
And you drop one, that's it. It's over. But they've restored over 30,000 of them. It's really a remarkable thing.
Can't wait to see it. The couple in this next story not only has photos to keep the memory of their late son alive, but they built a park on their own land with their own hands in his honor that they share with their community.
Yeah, it's really an amazing story. Here's my story from 1996.
Now, are we ready to go?
When the heart needs to heal, it is nature that provides new life to old wounds.
And the trees, we moved 28 large pine trees, as you can see, pine in there.
Between Dodge and Garden City lies the little town of Ingalls. Lovingly placed along a usually dry Arkansas River sits a small park.
Crawl into there and I'll give you an underdoggy.
David and Betty Hughes built this park as a memorial.
Oh, boy.
While the park is for the town to use, its very existence is bittersweet.
I would say it just kind of evolved.
In August of 1989, their son Neil was killed in the crash of a spray plane. Building the park in his memory keeps them from thinking about the tragedy.
One has to keep busy, Larry. So that's why we practically work ourselves to death, I guess.
Well, but I think we've overdone it. But it's been enjoyable.
It's peaceful here in Neil Hughes Park, where stained glass windows and a tiny chapel hold court to the day's sunlight. The little chapel reflects the Hughes' strong Catholic faith that flows like the prairie over all who come.
I don't think there was any plan. It just kept evolving, and probably my next project is build a log cabin.
Let's go get on the swings.
There are no tears here.
Those little girls like to go as high as it'll go.
Only the laughter of children enjoying the equipment, and there's no shortage of that.
I enjoy doing things like this. I don't know why. I enjoy seeing little kids have fun.
Neil's two daughters, Michaela and Jordan, play in the park, named for their father.
Anytime I'm down here working, I think of Neil all the time and know how much he would enjoy seeing what we've made out of this place.
And for David and Betty, it has been a way to cope. By celebrating life, they come to terms with death.
I think every tragedy is different. Probably the worst remark you can make is say, I know how you feel, but you've got to have something. And I think people, any type of community work or something, maybe help you make you feel better about yourself.
You teeter-totter with Jordy.
Now, Neil's children play in the Park of Memories, where their grandparents toil to create a future while remembering the past.
I would advise them to keep busy, doing something, a hobby of any kind, but they need to keep busy. Don't these statues make you sick? Golly. This is the only statue they left that they didn't break.
Vandals may break the statues, but they can't erase or break the loving memories that this park represents to the Hughes family.
Shall we load up and go home and have some pie?
It is a love founded in faith and in the future.
I never want to leave when I come down here. Well, we're ready to smoke it. Yeah.
Now, Betty and David say the park is still their pride and joy, and they've added several new features over the past 20 years and recently hired some college students to help them maintain it. It's a lot of work. Again, it's in Ingalls, Kansas, and Betty says stop by if you're ever in the neighborhood.
Such a tribute to their son.
It really is, and it's in a place you wouldn't think this park would be, and all of a sudden there it is. They've done a nice thing for the community.
A positive out of a negative.
Exactly.
We all want the best for our children, so imagine the pride that Mariah Shepard's dad had. This young Andover woman had the deck stacked against her from the start, but that didn't stop her from pursuing her dream.
Chin down just a little bit. Beautiful.
The camera loves Mariah Shepard, particularly her eyes. They are deep and powerful. But what the picture can't show you is that Mariah is legally blind and deaf.
I want to be the first deaf-blind model.
When Mariah was born, everything was fine. But then, at about 2 years old, she began to lose her hearing, then her sight, then muscle weakness began.
It's called a mitochondrial disease.
That's Mariah's father, James, playing with her younger sister, Tia. Now, Tia also had the same disease, but as she grew older, it took on a more severe form. Tia is currently on life support at the Shepard home.
My life revolves around my children, and it's something that, yeah, it's hard sometimes, but it's my life.
James's mother, Judy Shepard, even moved from Iowa to help her son.
No days off. That's our job, is being able to care for Mariah and Tia.
Divorced for 9 years, James found and married Stacy a year ago. Now, Stacy also had 3 girls. Now it's a full house with 2 of the girls needing 24/7 care.
I'm the type of person, I need to be needed, and I knew those girls needed me, and I needed them, and it makes me feel complete.
When I found Stacy, it was like a dream come true.
Dreams are now concentrated on Mariah. Her dream to become the first blind-deaf model continues. Wichita photographer Randy Tobias gave his studio for a photo session, and Mariah didn't disappoint. Lacey Chad is Mariah's interpreter.
I want to show people, even if I'm deaf and blind, I can do it.
Knowing that she is not willing to not give up anything in her way. I mean, she's moved.
Kind of like I told you so.
Yeah.
I can do it, can't stop me.
She's moved mountains and has proved people wrong.
Nice.
And I love her for that.
I'm very open-minded. And I would do anything to try to keep things positive.
And you have to set back the side of your own times, your own life, to care for them.
But right now it's more for fun. But in the future, more work.
Oh, just
proud.
Very proud.
I will never give up.
So beautiful on the inside and out. Mariah is remembered fondly by all who knew her and respected her in every way. Both she and her sister, though, passed away exactly a month apart back in 2015. But it was so much fun when I was with them, and we took her to a photographer, and she had her portraits taken as a model would have their portraits taken, and that's what she wanted to be. And it was a great moment for us, and obviously a wonderful moment for her.
Well, you gave her a great gift, the gift of what she always wanted to do before she passed.
That's right, and she wanted to be a model so bad, and she was a beautiful young girl.
Absolutely
and just had
gorgeous.
The deck was stacked against her, unfortunately.
And both of them are not with us, but they're together now.
Exactly.
And now to a Kansas woman from an earlier generation who has left an inspiring legacy.
Jean Garvey was a societal icon, the matron of one of Wichita's most prominent families. Now, she could have stopped there and her life would have been pretty good, but she didn't.
No, in 1980, Mrs. Garvey saw the need in her own family for a different kind of school. So she decided to start her own. Larry did this story in 2010 on the 30th anniversary of the independent school in Wichita.
Everyone thinks their child is something special,
and you know they're right.
For 30 years, Gene Garvey has been the spark that has ignited the independent school on Wichita's east side.
Alabama, Alaska, Arizona.
I just have the utmost gratitude for having been able to start a school.
On this day, these elementary-age children are reading a book to her and also studying the fundamentals of economics.
No wonder the children are studying economics in this classroom and understanding it, because that's the real world.
So the first sound is?
Today, this private school continues to thrive with students from a wide variety of racial, ethnic, economic, and religious backgrounds.
We don't want to label anyone, because the individuality is the strength of each one of us.
As the children grow and learn, its graduates are offered admission to some of the most prestigious colleges in the nation.
We stand on our own. We are independent, free to do what we know is right in the field of education.
Mrs. Garvey created the school as a mother of 6 who felt a different type of private school was needed. Plus, she was unhappy with public education.
We made the break with the public school, and I never have regretted it.
All right, let's see.
So I think when you come to our school, that there is a warm atmosphere, because the school is based on love. You can take an average child, and if they're working with teachers who do have that high expectancy, and they will encourage children with whatever they're doing, anyone can turn into a scholar.
Over the years, this school has grown and now serves children from pre-kindergarten through 12th grade.
My idea was very simple, just to have a school that other people would identify with or want to be like. I'm having fun every day, and it's just so satisfying. This is a good book to be studying this.
Gene Garvey's life of philanthropy and goodwill came to a conclusion in 2012. She was 90 years old, but she left a legacy that's so important to so many children who attended that really incredible school.
Incredible school that still lives on today.
It's still there.
Okay, it takes all kinds to make Kansas such an interesting place. The man in this next story had a unique idea for his home, and well, he just went for it. Take a look.
I love the desert, but I couldn't afford to live there, so I brought the desert home. Cacti are survivors. I just have a lot of admiration for the plant. It's a great hobby. It's a dangerous hobby. Oh God, I've had surgery 3 times, I can tell you that. Because when you do get stuck, sometimes you just can't get it out, so they have to actually surgically remove it.
Ron designed his desert so that the entire scene is part of the home. From the street, there is no mistaking this house is different. His desert landscape is completely enclosed in a thermostatically controlled environment.
The reason why the plant's done so well is because this room is one big pot.
In Ron's great room, you can't beat the view. He and his wife Polly can look out over a desert as they dine.
My whole home is all Southwest decor.
Since Ron was a teenager, he's been going to Santa Fe, New Mexico. For him, it's as near heaven as he can get.
There's just no place like it on this earth, and I cherish every moment that I'm there.
In many rooms are one-of-a-kind items that Ron added to his collection of Southwest memorabilia.
I feel like I'm in Santa Fe all the time, so that's where my spirit really is. Those plants are going to be here long after I'm gone. They're actually an inspiration to me. This thing's incredible.
Because cactus are survivors, Ron feels close to these plants. In some ways, they mirror his life. Here, in his own personal desert, he's at home and happy to share it with all who care to see it.
Yeah, this is my best therapy. Better than any psychiatrist. Yeah.
Ron Peake, at home on the desert. I'm Larry Hatteberg.
I remember when that story aired, I wanted to go to his desert so badly. What a cool thing.
It's a cool thing, and all he has to do is either look out his window or walk, and there he's right in the middle of the desert, right in his house.
Right in his house. That was one of Larry's last stories, by the way, before he left Cake TV in 2014. And since then, Ron says he's had one more surgery to remove cactus needles from his body. That makes 4 times now. He's dedicated, isn't he?
He's very.
He says he loves his little desert and keeps making it better and better.
He does, and while I was shooting it, I backed into one.
No, you didn't.
Yes, I did.
Ow.
And I got a few little touches from the cactus just to let me know that they're there.
Didn't have to have surgery, though.
Didn't have to have surgery.
Okay, that's
no.
good.
Well, there are no cactuses at Mike Newstrom's farm up near Bennington, Kansas, but you'll find something growing that's every bit as beautiful. And it smells so nice.
People seem to come out here and relax. They're in no rush to hurry off.
Located on a sandstone hill in a rolling picturesque part of Kansas, Mike Newstrom began his lavender farm in 2002.
The smell is something that is very relaxing. Visually, I think there'd be what I would describe as a riot of color, from the intense greens of the native grasses to the deep purples to lavender color of the blooms.
Now in Kansas, we're used to wheat farming, corn harvests, and cotton plants. Well, lavender is a row crop just like those.
It's still farming. It is hard work.
It's harvest time for this particular crop of lavender. Now, Newstrom has 3,000 plants with 12 varieties.
What we're trying to do is capture the essential oil that's in the buds, and there's a prime time to cut that. It's just when it first starts to flower, and once it flowers, it's worthless to me. It's beautiful, but I'm after the oil that's contained in the buds.
Newstrom makes nearly 90 products from the oil of the lavender plant.
Well, once I age the essential oil, which takes anywhere from 6 months to a year, then I can use that to develop and make my products.
Inside his small store are shelves of lavender products that include body lotion, conditioners, lavender linen sprays, lavender body powder, lavender deodorant, even lavender body butter. Making those products is done by Mike when he's not tending to his plants.
I know how much work it took to get to this point, but we're not even halfway through the process.
Upstairs above the shop is where the lavender plant stalks are taken to dry. Then later, all that oil is captured and the process begins again.
My wife said, well, I should have a sleep clinic up here because lavender helps you sleep. I thought, yeah, I need one more thing on my plate.
It is year-round work that smells great. And for Mike Newstrom, this life is perfect.
I have never met somebody that says, I want to grow up to be a lavender farmer. We all kind of back into this. Larry, I love my life.
I remember when Larry did that story, you brought me back some lavender.
I do, and you can even smell it now, can't you?
It filled the whole newsroom.
It does. It's a great smell.
Now, Prairie Lavender Farm, by the way, still going strong. Mike welcomes people to come out and enjoy the sights and smells. His products, by the way, also available at the on-site gift shop at many stores across the region and online. And guess what? You can get all the info by clicking on the link on Hatteberg's People page at kpts.org.
It smells so good. All right, now to another place that's near and dear to my heart. It's my hometown, Winfield, and that's where you'll find this young woman who's making sure the rich history of Cowley County is not forgotten.
It's very large and stony, It's big. The board does spend a lot of money keeping it looking this nice.
It's Winfield's Old Bryant School that, instead of holding students, is holding a community's history.
It's fun to be here, to meet people and to get to learn things you've never learned.
Shawn Marie Stover is the director of the Cowley County Historical Society Museum, a part-time position with full-time fascination.
I just think people don't realize how interesting Winfield is. I didn't. This room we have set up like many of the rooms in the old houses used to be. We have a bedroom here, complete with a chamber pot. We have an example of an old parlor. And of course, parlors weren't lived in much. They were just used for company and all the pretty things that you might find in an old home. I'm the only, other than the cleaning lady, I'm the only paid staff here. So everything else is done through volunteers. And I'm blessed. I love my volunteers. I had 2 when I started, and now I've got about 11.
For a small community, this museum is well stocked with displays of all kinds, from fire engines to farming. History in Cowley County is alive and flourishing, but perhaps even more important is the history that isn't on display.
And I think our information is the best part of our museum. I mean, the exhibits educate, but we couldn't make the exhibits without the information that we have in our archives to tell us what life used to be like. My favorite pictures in this whole place are the pictures that were taken at Strother Field during World War II. In this picture you have a famous movie star. I believe her name was Louise Rayner. She had been in movies like Ziegfeld's Follies. I mean, at the time she was known. And she had a brother that was stationed at Strother Field.
For those of us who grew up in Cowley County, things like this Abe Lincoln statue, which stood on a landing at Winfield High School, floods my mind with memories, as does this simple Titus scooter we used in gym class.
When I handle things in the archives, I really like to look at old records or old books. You have a sense of awe. The people, they never would have guessed 100 years later their items would end up in the museum. They were just living life, and somehow things got passed to us.
Historians would probably agree with Roman philosopher Cicero. Now, he said, to remain ignorant of things that happened before you were born is to remain a child.
We really just want you to come see what we have. That's the whole reason why we do anything.
So, we celebrate those like Shawn Marie and the volunteers whose enthusiasm for the past would make Cicero proud.
I know someday I'm going to not work here, and this museum will hopefully still be here. I want what I do now to be good enough that nobody has to redo it. So I want what I do to matter and to last. There's something extraordinary just in the ordinary, I guess.
Remember, you can stream all the past episodes of Hatteberg's People at kpts.org. And if you have a comment or question, send us an email at hattebergspeople@kpts.org. It was great to have you with us. We'll see you next time.
See ya.
The preceding program was brought to you by TZ Productions, offering 40 years of media experience.